Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Erica Palmer, and I have the great privilege of serving as the Executive Director of the Independent Restaurant Coalition. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to 4 people who inspire me every day. But before we do that, just a few quick things to note. First of all, this call is for you, and I know you've got lots of questions. Hopefully, they will be answered by Jose, Sam, Bessie, and Naya. But if they don't, pop your questions into the Q&A, and we'll be sure to post the answers to all of your questions on our website later today. As many of you know, the coalition formed in March of 2020 with a singular purpose: to secure financial support for independent restaurants and bars. Every day since then, we've been fighting to protect the 16 million jobs our industry supports. Our membership grew from 18 to 180 in a matter of days. Many of us had never advocated before, and convincing Congress and the White House to support our small businesses seemed like an absolutely daunting task. We banded together, we've taught each other how to speak to our representatives, and suddenly our community of 500,000 small businesses became one, a united front, fighting for the survival of our industry and the creation of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Our work is not yet done. We're gathered here today because Congress did not allocate enough relief for every business that needs it. And we are not going to stop fighting until every restaurant and bar receives the funding they need to keep their doors open. It still seems like a very daunting task, but after this call, I hope you'll have an idea of where we stand and how we're going to get this job done. And with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce Chef Jose Andrés. Oh no, have we lost Chef? There he is.
Well, you didn't, but so happy to be with you. I am in Spain. I just landed, and I am in a very small restaurant outside a city called Malaga in the south of Spain. And the good news, bad news, is that it's a lot of room, a lot of noise where I am. That's the bad news. The good news is that there's a lot of noise because the restaurant is really busy. And in many ways, that's what we are all waiting for, right? To wait a moment that our restaurants, our communities will be thriving again. Our cities, our neighborhoods will be full of the people that we love to welcome to our homes, to our kitchens, to our dining rooms. And I think the last year and a half has proven to be the longest year and a half in our lives. Many of you know who I am. I'm one cook like all of you. I'm one more restaurant guy like all of you. I'm one guy that when was 6, 7, 8 years old, I learned to cook from my dad. When I was 14, 15, I was able to join a school, a cooking school. People that we love to cook, to smile, to welcome, to serve, to shake. The many things our food restaurant business do for the people. And here we are in one of the most important moments of our life. We are in that moment that for many business, for many small business, it's that moment that life can be tipping in one direction or another. And let me tell you, what I love about our business, the thousands of small business restaurants that we are, is that we are all supporting each other in ways I've never seen. I know for many of us, for many of you, it's hard, but I think you all should be proud to know that we are one very big family, and one very big family that believes that we all have to make it, and we all have to make it forward. Some of you may know I just came back from Louisiana, where I saw the entire food restaurant community, restaurants that they are families after families, generations of chefs and restaurant owners that they are in the good times. New Orleans has been this place, welcome everybody. But in the not so good times after a hurricane, I saw the entire restaurant community coming together to take care of their own, not only the people in New Orleans, but all around Louisiana. And I only want to share that with you because offshore, we all need to hold together and make sure we all make it together because our restaurants are essential for our communities. And this is something we all should be conscious and proud. And listen, some of you will know that recently I sat with the SBA, the Small Business Administrator, Isabel Guzman, in celebration of the Small Business Week. And I do believe that this administration, as whole Congress, they really believe the importance of a small business in our community. And I love what the IRC has been doing, bringing the voice of all of you together as one, making sure that our voices are heard in the higher levels of power, White House and every corner in Congress. Obviously, as you know, I am a guy with, I'm an American with an accent. I've been 30 years here, but obviously, you know, I'm Spanish, and my Hispanic Latino heritage is strong. And this month we are celebrating this Hispanic Heritage Month. Many businesses in America, many restaurants are owned by men and many by women, and those are business we need to support as well as every other one. We need them to survive. So, you know, the importance of refilling this Restaurant Revitalization Fund, it's so important. We know that I think 2/3, right? You know the numbers better than me, of restaurants we didn't get our RRF, and it's essential. We know that the economy is still gonna take a few weeks, few months until things go back to normal. Many small business has gotten into a hole, and we need to make sure that we stop digging, because if small businesses keep getting deeper and deeper in a hole, we know is no way out, and we cannot afford more restaurants to close, no one more. So let's all keep knocking on the doors. Let's all keep bringing our social media. Let's all keep bringing the connections that we all bring together, where every congressman, congresswoman, senator believes that supporting small businesses, small restaurants of America is the only way forward and is actually the right thing to do. So let's keep motivating each other. I know that this has been long. I know that some of you, you've given your best. You've worked every hour of the day beyond keeping your restaurants afloat or not. You've been there making sure that your voice is heard, not only for you, but for many others that don't even have the voice you may have. So this is essential. Let's make sure every voice is heard, and let's keep fighting for our industry survival. We cannot allow one more restaurant to close, period. So all together, I think we're gonna get through this. And I cannot tell you more than I am very proud. I was always very proud of being part of the restaurant community. But unfortunately, it has been through COVID that I did finally understand, after almost 30 years in America, the very beautiful big family all of us is. Even people we don't know each other. I am so humbled to see that our industry has come together as one, we, the people, to fight for especially the ones that have no voice. Let's keep doing this. We're gonna make it happen. I know we will be successful. It's no other option for America, for us to be successful achieving, replenishing this fund that will help so many. So without keep getting in more details, is plenty of good people to be listening to today. I want to be passing this to a good friend. I'm going to be passing this to a person that in many ways has been influential chef who had powers, Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama. And a chef I'm very proud to say I got to know him. I got to work with him. We keep working with him. And now I'm very proud to call him. Let me introduce you to President Obama's Senior Policy Advisor for Nutrition, advisor to the IRC, and the chef, I want everybody to remember, that was able to convince the First Lady and the President to bring 1,000 chefs to the lawn of the White House to say, we matter, we're here, we're gonna be part of making America better every single day. One plate of food at a time, we can all build a better America. That person, an inspiration to me and a person I learned a ton from, Sam Kass.
Hermano, thank you so much.
Sam.
So good to see you, brother. Thank you for your amazing leadership. And it's been an amazing journey to be on with you for so many years. And, you know, guys, thank you for joining us, for all the hard work. I know this last 18 months has just been the most complicated, challenging, difficult, heart-wrenching, also inspirational time that I've lived through. And even though I'm not cooking day to day and I don't have a restaurant, I've really dedicated myself to trying to help get us through this, because I know just how important we all are to the bedrock of our country, of our culture, of our communities, of the people we serve, of our families. It's just so important. And so I just want to give, you know, a brief update. Having spent, you know, 8 years with the Obamas and 6 in the White House fighting these kind of fights, you know, just gonna give an update on where we are and, you know, what's in front of us and, you know, what's possible still, even though at times I know it feels exponentially too slow and frustrating and, you know, we're all going crazy over here. But we're actually in an okay place. So, but we're also in a critical place. So the time right now is couldn't be more important to get this done. So it's not over, although everything in Washington dies 1,000 deaths before it's finally born. And we've seen that time and time again. And that's where we are once again. Week to week, it changes. Last week, feeling much better than we were the week prior. And it's critical right now. Our push can make a big difference. So the state of play, it's been 8 months since we got Restaurant Relief Fund passed. 4 months since the application's open. And obviously the demand far outstripped what we were able to get into the pool of money. But we still have over 250 members of Congress with us, who are pushing to redouble our efforts and refill the fund so that everybody who applied can get the necessary funding that they need. And if you remember, you know, last year, as we were going through all this, man, it was one of the most intense roller coasters I've ever been on. It took multiple bills, endless committee hearings, elections, budget reconciliation, inaugurations, so many twists and turns, so many times, even for me, who was expecting that, felt like maybe there wasn't a path for us. It took all of that plus the just incredible efforts of all of us to actually get the fund stood up. And I got to say, you know, we should also take a minute to understand that we didn't exist as a group like this 18 months ago, and we showed up and secured $28 billion, which I just want to be clear, does not happen. Like nobody that I know has ever seen anything like that happen in terms of the impact that we had. And now we got to leverage what we built to get this over the finish line. So it took 14 months to start to finish to get that done in Congress. And, you know, it was too slow. It just was, but we got a lot done. $20 billion is a serious number. And what we're pushing for now is an additional 43 billion, which we think will cover the needs of everybody that applied for relief. And we think we have a real chance. It's always, everything in DC is a long shot, especially when you're talking about numbers like that. We have a very serious chance to get that done. So right now, though, we're not going to get it done unless we fight harder and more intensely than we ever have before. We just aren't. Everybody is fighting for every dollar in DC. As you all watch, you see how these things play out. And it's going to take our like tenacity and determination and just being relentless right now that will make a difference. If we don't show up, I promise you, they're going to give it to the people who do, because people in Congress do not like it. And people in the White House do not like it when you call them, you write them, you put things out on social media, you show up. They want to be left alone. They want everybody to be happy. They want to be left alone. And so we gotta put really engage right now. So in terms of technically how it works, and I'll get into a couple details in terms of how we think it's going to play out. But I'll preface it that like the details honestly are not what's important. So we have funding and budget reconciliation. It's a Democratic only bill. It's likely going to pass later this year. Potentially on September 27th, the House is supposed to vote on the bipartisan infrastructure deal. It's another, an artificial deadline that may move these things forward. It honestly may not. Quite frankly, leadership doesn't exactly know how this will ultimately play out. And you're going to see other bills starting, other talk of some coalition coming together to try to get something done. Like all the different trains, whatever train moves this forward does not matter to us. And we have some of the best in the business representing us, figuring out which train is leaving, make sure we got our piece in that train. And those are all distractions for us. The things that matter right now is that Congress funds the 172,000 restaurants, bars, wineries, breweries, caterers, all the people who are sitting here needing these funds, who applied and did not get the grant. It doesn't matter to me, quite frankly. I don't care where it comes from. It could come from HHS, it could come from small business, it could come from the post office. I mean, it just doesn't matter to us. We need the funding on a vehicle to move forward. And that's what I think we're going to see. So the one thing I know for sure, we're not going to see it unless we engage. And that's what we need all of you to do. We need you to be loud. We need to make your voices heard. When we put out calls for action, calls for engagement, it really does matter that we do. It sometimes feels like it doesn't have an impact because things are slow or you don't get the answer directly that you think you should get. But trust me, it has an impact. When you're sitting in those seats, it has an impact. So we need you to post on social media. We need you to, especially to call your members of Congress. We need you to ask your customers, your friends, employees, employers, your neighbor, anybody you know, your mom, your dad, your kids, whoever you got, to engage on our behalf and make sure that people in Washington know what's at stake. Know that there's a very simple way for them to help us to make sure we get through this, especially as we see, restrictions coming back in play as Delta surges, then the need is only growing. And just how critical juncture we are for all of our businesses. I mean, this is life or death for so many of us. And so, I've been a part of, many of these fights, school nutrition, SNAP policy, and I mean, constant, endless, long list of these kind of battles. And every single one that I've been a part of that, has had a good outcome, looked like we weren't going to make it multiple times, looked like it was dead. People were throwing their hands up saying, yeah, well, we tried. And the real difference is that those who don't give up, those who just keep pushing and keep fighting to the very end are the ones that will win the day in DC. And if we give up on ourselves, I promise you Congress and the White House will as well. And I promise you they're going to go to relieve some other pressure that's being put on them instead. So right now, I'm here to tell you, like, this is a critical moment. We really can't get this done. And I wouldn't be saying that if that wasn't true. If anybody knows me, so they can tell you, like, I call it straight. I'm no sugar, no bullshit. And we got a shot here. And so they got to know that we're not going away, and that without this support, you're going to see a massive collapse of the industry yet again, and all the economic, social, and cultural implications that come with that. So let's keep rolling up our sleeves. Let's get to work. These next few weeks are super critical. And if we do it, I think we're going to be celebrating again for our great work. So thank you for your leadership, your time, all you do for our country and our communities, and look forward to raising a glass in a much better place in the next few months. Erica, I think I turn it back to you, huh?
Thanks so much, Sam. I just want to clarify something. I think folks heard you say that the budget reconciliation would be happening in December. It's actually September 27th when we're expecting them to take that up. So
That's what I thought. That's what I tried to say, whether I came out or not.
you just threw a bunch of people into a panic. Don't worry about that. But
September.
September.
If I said December, I'm sorry. I was definitely, it is September. I thought I said September. Definitely not September.
No, thanks so much for joining us today, Sam. We're going to pass it over to Bessie, who is one of the co-founders of Massachusetts Restaurants United.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me today. For those of you who don't know me, I, up until August of last year, through COVID, was the general manager of my mother's restaurant. She founded it 20 years ago as the first women-owned, immigrant-owned, family-owned, authentic Mexican restaurant in Massachusetts and Boston. So for 20 years, we've operated with no alcohol, no partners, just based on the food to share our culture with the people of New England. That's our motto. And through COVID, we stayed open for our workers, for our Hispanic community, and for our customers. And without RRF funds that we finally received, because it was the first time we actually received money from somewhere, we didn't have business loans either, because as minorities know, it is harder for us to get accepted to approve business loans for our businesses, and especially restaurants. So without those funds, right now we would probably still be in hibernation. I don't think close, because we give up never. But their funds really did save us. And it would be very irresponsible if we didn't stand up for those that didn't get those funds, for those families that have invested their life and effort to build those restaurants and to create those communities that only restaurants create in our neighborhoods. And that is the reality. Much like Jose and Sam have said, you know, we may have accents, we may be first generation here in America doing this, but we matter. And our voice is so important. Through COVID, I was blessed to join a group of restaurateurs, restaurant workers, and people of the restaurant industry to create Massachusetts Restaurants United. Much like IRC, we came together to fight for our rights and get economic relief in Massachusetts, and we got it, but because of tireless hours of work. If there's one thing that I've learned from our current board president, Jody Adams, is that you try and you try and you keep trying. We just had this conversation on Monday for how to continue getting RRF funds and what Massachusetts is going to do to help other states that didn't get any. And that's the spirit that we need right now. We need anyone who did get the funds to raise their voice and say why it helped us. We need anyone who didn't get the funds to raise their voice and say why we need it. And if you already sent an email to your elected rep or a call, do it again. And wait 3 days and do it again. And wait a week and do it again. Because until you don't get a response, you don't stop. That has been the method for MRU. And that has been the only way that we have succeeded in getting some economic relief and continuing our fight to get economic relief. Para todos aquellos que saben la lucha de nuestros inmigrantes en este país, necesitamos también que compartan su voz. Necesitamos que compartan su historia de por qué nuestros negocios como minoridades en este país importan. Y necesitamos que alcen esas voces y les digan a sus representantes elegidos que necesitan más fondos en el RRF para poder seguir abiertos. Si no saben cómo comunicarse, vayan a la website del IRC para ver los recursos que tienen, muy fácil de usar por medio de las redes sociales, por medio de teléfono y por medio de emails. Pero necesitamos que compartan sus historias y contacten a sus representantes electos, porque ahorita es crucial el unirnos y el conseguir más fondos para que nuestros pequeños negocios sigan vivos. So, the moral of the story is, we cannot give up. If you like a local restaurant, even if you right now watching are not a restaurateur, welcome. We need you to step up and help us. If you are a restaurant that unfortunately closed, there's still hope and we want you to reopen. If you're a restaurant that is on the verge of closing, speak out and let us know your story so that we can share it and get you help. There are countless of resources that the IRC website has, much like the MRU website has shared, through social media, through calls, through emails, automated emails even that take less than a minute. So we need you to use them. And if you ever have a question, if you don't know how to move forward, use us as well. Because whether it is from a car or from a loud restaurant in Spain, we care. And we want to make this happen. Like Sam said, the next few weeks are crucial. Not even next few weeks, just 2 weeks. They are crucial to make this happen. So please get involved. Por favor, involúcrense.
Thank you so much, Bessie. I'm gonna pass it to you, Naya.
Thank you so much, Erica. And Bessie, I'm a huge fan of your work, and I love the work that you're doing. I'm just clapping in the background here. Thanks, everyone. My name is Naya Marshall. I own Ivy Kitchen, located in the city of Detroit. I like a lot of restaurants. I opened maybe 6 months before the pandemic. I saved up almost a lifelong of money to open. Much like Bessie, I don't have investors or partners or bank loans. It's all funded by me. Obviously, getting bank loans through being a minority is very difficult, especially in the restaurant industry. So I was, needless to say, I was very proud. It was a very proud moment for me. It was my life's dream, my goal, when my doors finally opened. I had many delays, but when we finally got open, it was a sigh of relief. And what was even more rewarding for me is that we were really welcomed by the community. We were really welcome, and we were building our neighborhood status, if you will. Unfortunately, about 6 months later, on March 15th, we were forced to shut down. Like many other restaurants, we were forced to shut down. That took us in a tailspin in terms of not knowing what to do. Luckily, me being me, I didn't sit idle for very long. I began to actually feed the front line. I actually had a partnership with José Andrés company, feeding the frontline workers, feeding our police officers, our firemen, et cetera, trying to just make it through the pandemic. Unfortunately, I was one of those who did not receive the PPP loan for a multitude of denials and reasons. I wasn't successful. And so that's when I had a sigh of relief once the program was announced. But after many months and months of applying and not being accepted because we were a newer restaurant and we didn't have all of the information and documentation of an older restaurant, we were denied. And so I was fortunate enough to begin to tell the story of that. And that is when the IRC found me. And I'm so glad and so humbly blessed that they did, because they gave, they elevated the voice of those of us who were basically voiceless. And so that's when the advocacy in me began. I wasn't an advocate before. I was a restaurateur. I was getting up and managing my staff, managing menus, and all of these things that restaurateurs do every single day. And then the advocacy in me was ignited. And thank God that it was, because what I realized is that we're all advocates. We're all advocates. And until we're all funded, none of us are equal. We're only equal once we're all funded. Receiving the Restaurant Relief Grant, I'm one of the blessed ones that received it. And it's been a lifeline. I don't want to get in tears about it, but I was literally forced evaluating closing every single day until those funds became available for me. They were a lifeline for me. They were a lifeline for my staff. And ultimately it helped the community, because where Ivy is in a food desert in the city of Detroit. It's located in a building that had not been habitable for almost 30 years. There are no healthy food options in the whole area. And so saving Ivy helped save the community, essentially. And that's what receiving the restaurant relief did. It saved us, because we were literally on the verge of closing. And so I have to implore everyone to just make sure you're reaching out to your congressman, sending those letters. They matter, because when I began to consistently send my emails, I finally start getting a response. And so you can call them on the phone, you can get to know their chief of staffs, and tell your story. And I implore you to do so, because once they know who you are, that has a greater impact. It makes them respond a little bit more. It makes them listen a little bit harder. So I implore everyone to keep responding and make sure that in your emails, in your body of your emails, that you are telling your story, because that is what has an impact. But definitely send your emails, make the calls. Like Bessie said, if you make the call today, 3 days later, make the call again, send the email again. I implore everyone to do so. It's not easy being a restaurateur. Most of us do it because we love it, because it certainly has thin profit margins. You know, we love it. We love serving the community that we serve. And it's a part of the fabric of America, essentially. And so getting your doors open and having the struggle of going through and being at risk of closing and having to deal with that on a daily basis, that's a very tough thing to go through. So many doors have closed. I have friends that were approved that were never funded, and they're at risk of closing today. I implore everyone to make sure that those people who applied are funded. The struggles of a restaurateur, what you go through on a daily basis is a tough situation. For those of you that have closed, make sure that you're speaking the voice of those that have closed, because some people did not even know that the restaurant relief was here for them. And they finally applied and was delivered some level of hope, and that hope now is at risk of not being rewarded. Large chains like McDonald's, they have millions of dollars to pour into lobbying efforts. It's a collector of small businesses. We don't have the resources. What we do have is our connection to our communities. Big opportunities could never ignite. We are a network of 50,000 small businesses, the 16 million people we support, and the communities and cities who come out and enjoy themselves in small independent restaurants on a daily basis. We have the strength in numbers. We have the strength in numbers. And in our connection to our communities, our members of Congress campaign in our businesses every day, every election cycle. We have served, sorry, one second. We have served them, and now we need their help. Let's show the representatives that we are not just small businesses, but that we are a united community that is fighting together. And in this desperate need, in their desperate need, we need their support.
Thanks so much, Naya. I know you all have popped a ton of questions in the chat. We are going to work our way through them as best we can. And I have asked one of our colleagues, one of our government affairs consultants, to join us today. Top question of the hour is, when do you expect this to be refilled? And do we need to be focusing on, is it moving in the budget reconciliation, or is there another vehicle that this funding is going to move in?
Yeah, thanks, Erica. I think, when you look at this problem, we are at the mercy of Congress, right? We have to wait on them to fund this program. We can't, all we can do is ask and keep pushing them. I don't care where it gets funded. I don't care if it's in budget reconciliation with 50 Democratic votes, or if it's in some other bill that gets 60 votes in the Senate, or something that passes the House through 300 votes. We need to just keep telling people to please refund the program, and how it gets done doesn't matter. There's no magic highway from where we are today to RRF replenishment. So the vehicle doesn't matter. We just need money to be put in this fund however is possible.
So in keeping with that, there are a number of folks on this call who had their grants rescinded. And the big question is, will they receive funding if the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is replenished?
So we can't say absolutely how this is going to happen, but every indication we get from Congress and the SBA and the Biden administration and others is that everybody in the queue will be funded if $43 billion goes into the program. So barring any changes, everybody will get that money, and we'll be able to take care of all the folks who are rescinded, all the folks who have applied, and we can move forward.
So let's talk about the advocacy that we are asking everyone to do. There are lots of questions about how to reach out to your senators. And the top question is, somebody like me, I'm in Oregon. Pretty much everybody in my state is fully committed, leading the charge, and has signed on. What should I do to support this effort?
So let me just take one thing and then answer that question, Erica. A lot of people have said, does it really help for me to keep reaching out, right? Bessie and Naya sort of talked about reach out now and then in 3 days and then in 3 days and then in a week. If you're tired of emailing them, they're tired of hearing from you, and it's working, right? You need to keep going, and they need to keep hearing from you, or they'll stop doing what they're doing. So Erica, for instance, in Oregon, don't stop emailing your Oregon members, right? But if you're looking for something else to do, somebody asked me the other day, can I email other senators? You can, right? They'll accept your email, but it won't have as much weight. So an alternative to that is call your friends in other states, right? Take the time to email, text, call, carrier pigeon, smoke signal, whatever works for you, friends in other states, and ask them to call their senators. Ask clients or customers or others that you know who are in other states to reach out. Senators respond to their constituents, House members respond to their constituents, and try to find people who can have influence on other places.
So calling and emailing, something that's super easy to do, but oftentimes, you call the switchboard, you just get to a voicemail. I hear about people having meetings, says one of the folks in the Q&A. How do I get past that first gatekeeper and actually have a conversation with somebody that can help me?
Sure. I think a couple of things you can do. One is, we always give you the switchboard number, which is 202-224-3121. You call and they say, who would you like to talk to? And you say, I'd like to talk to Senator, Bill Smith from wherever. And you get that office and you get a voicemail. In that voicemail, you can say, I'd like a call back from the staffer in charge of restaurant funding, right? I'd like to have a meeting with that staffer. If they don't call you back, wait a day or two, try again. Keep leaving that same message. You can also call your local office, right? So in Erica's case, her senators have offices in Portland and probably Bend and a few other places. Call their local office and say you want to have a meeting. Turns out that those local offices are a lot better at answering their phones and are a lot better at responding to constituents. And I don't say they're better at answering their phones for any reason other than there are just less calls that go to those local offices. So go to your senator's website, go to your members of Congress website, look up their local offices and call there if Washington isn't getting back to you.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm going to answer one question before we move on to another specifically for you. I saw a couple of questions in the chat about, I seem to be stuck in a bureaucratic loop with my EIDL loan, and does the IRC have any contacts at the SBA? We do indeed, but your best bet to unravel your EIDL is actually to also contact your congressperson. They can connect with an SBA liaison. They can get much more information about your EIDL application than I can. So another reason to give them a call, 2 for 1. You can talk to them about the need to replenish the Restaurant Revitalization Fund and tell them that you're stuck in what I affectionately call EIDL hell, and enlist their services in helping you get the answers and get you unstuck. Is there a magic word, or is there a secret decoder ring? What do our senators and congresspeople want to hear that will actually make them hurry up and replenish this bill?
Yeah, there isn't, right? You can't say the number 57 and get a secret meeting, right? But what they want to hear is your story, right? And I think what works best is sharing with people what's going on in your restaurant. Are you struggling to stay open because of supply costs, because of 18 months of debt, because of the Delta variant, because of other problems you're having? I mean, the answer in truth is probably all of those things. But I think the best way to get to members is to say, hey, my name's Patrick. I own a restaurant on Main Street in Smithville. Here's what we looked like before the pandemic. Here are the challenges we put up with. Here is why I am flat on my back with personal guarantees or debt or lack of income or inability to keep people in my restaurant or whatever it is. What I need is this fund to fix it. Only you at this point can help save my restaurant. And here's how you can do it. It's really about personalizing what seems like a crisis that is much too large to manage, even for the federal government, to something discrete that they can do to help keep your restaurant open. And the likelihood is the staffer you're talking to, the member of Congress, others have been to your restaurant, know it, are familiar with it, their neighbors go, and making them feel what it's like to be you is the best way to get to these folks.
So another question is, I've heard that the only people that really matter in this negotiation are Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi, but I'm not in their states. Should I be contacting them?
So when I said that local offices are better at picking up the phone, in a lot of places, it's like Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi, where all of America is calling, right? The best way for you in, say, Florida to influence Leader Schumer or Speaker Pelosi, or in Arizona or somewhere else, is to call your members and get them to go to Schumer and Pelosi, right? If you're in New York or California, by all means, let them know. And the IRC is doing that, and we're working to influence their offices as well, both directly or, as one of my colleagues says, through a bank shot, right? But in your case, for Erica, she lives in Earl Blumenauer's district, and she regularly talks to Mr. Blumenauer about helping to get to the speaker and getting her to do this. There are other ways to do this that don't involve, frankly, you using your time to call a member who's either going to put a tick mark about something you care about, or otherwise sort of be dismissive if you're not part of their constituents.
So what about when you call and you email and somebody said, I've contacted my senator, I've emailed them 100 times and I just get a form letter, and sometimes it doesn't even actually respond to the RRF. I sent them a note about the RRF and I got a response about PPP. Should I be doing something differently?
I think in that case, you change your tact and start emailing with a meeting request, right? Usually on the senator's website now, there's sort of a form you fill out for a meeting request, or you can send an email to the same folks you've been sending them to and say, I'm requesting a meeting with your staffer who handles restaurant relief. And this is the issue I want to talk about, right? It takes a little bit of more of your time, certainly, than just, repeatedly barraging folks with the same email. But if you dial up your engagement a little bit, you're probably going to get more responsiveness back as well. So that's what I would sort of take as the next step in that process.
Thanks so much. We had another question that I can answer a little bit about. It was, I want to share my story publicly, and how do I get the media to pay attention to me? Each and every one of you likely has a relationship with your local restaurant reviewers or folks that have covered your restaurant in the past. This is a great time to pick up the phone and call them. They've come to you in the past looking for stories. They've come and dined in your restaurant. Call them and invite them to see what it looks like now, to tell your story of how you are struggling and how you need your restaurant and all of the other restaurants across the country to receive the assistance needed through the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. For years, you all have been asked to support your communities. I know it's really hard to turn the tables and to ask for help. It's not something that we are programmed to do, but now is the time. Now is the time to say, I need you to understand what I'm going through, what our community is going through, and what's at stake here. So whether that's your local TV reporters, your food reviewers, your local political leaders, it's time to ask for help. Ask your customers to join you in making these phone calls as well. I see a lot more questions in the Q&A, and I'm sorry we're not going to get through all of them, but I will take every single question in the Q&A and answer it, and I will post it on our website later today. And if you are not familiar with our website, we'll post that in the chat. It is saverestaurants.com. You'll also find a recording of this call, so if you join late, you can rewatch the parts that you've missed. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us for questions. Many of you have shared our messaging, our graphics, and more to help get the word out, and I appreciate every bit that you do. And today, I'd like to offer you something new to share on social media. Thanks to an incredibly talented artist named Lumi Barron, and a friend of the IRC, Gwyneth Paltrow, we have a poignant video that I hope you will all share. And I'm going to share it with you now. As we share our screen, we'll switch over to a video. Casey, if you could work your tech magic and make that happen, I'd appreciate it.
The pandemic has taken a devastating toll on independent restaurants. 200,000, nearly one half of all restaurants, are in danger of closing permanently without federal aid. Please, ask Congress to replenish the Restaurant Revitalization Fund now, before it's too late.
We'll be posting this live today. We'll also be sharing it on the saverestaurants.com page with a caption for you to cut and paste as well. Please help by sharing the video and reaching out to members of Congress, just like Jose and Naya, Bessie and Sam and everyone else who has made the call to advocate today. Our website also has a ton of other information. I saw in the Q&A, you all were looking for other stats. When you go to our website, you'll see a link that says take action in the upper right-hand side of the menu. That will take you to some easy steps and a ton of information in our resources and guides section. We'll continue to update that so you've got all of the tools you need. And I appreciate you to just take the leap. If you've never made a call before, pick up the phone. If you've been calling and emailing constantly and you're not getting the response, do what Patrick said. Email this time and ask for a meeting. We are, as an industry, perched on the precipice, and we can turn to the darkness or we can turn to the light. And I know it's a struggle, and sometimes it's really tempting to just give in, but now's not the time. We can't give up on ourselves. We can't give up on this industry. There's 16 million people depending on us. Whew. Let's go get this done. Have a great day, guys. Thank you for joining us.